Welcome to PhD with Women on It, Hack the Future. My name is Beata Young, and today's PhD Positivity Hack delivered will be by our guest, Elaine Gold. Topic: Level Up, Navigating the Founder to Leader Transition. Episodes 129 starts here. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my motto. And empathy is critical when you're leveling up, navigating the founder to leader transition. First, let me mention and round of applause to Alisa Paparella, founder of Disabled in STEM and PhD candidate in cancer and cell biology, for showing us that disabilities are not a hindrance to attaining success. Thank you for inspiring and sharing your story with us, Alisa. We wish you good luck, Madonna Wambua, a former PhD guest and founder and CTO of Jibu Labs, for being selected as a finalist for the Inspirational Woman of the Year at the 2023 Black Tech Achievement Awards this coming 26th of February. Congratulations, Madonna, and well done for all of your achievements. You rock. And finally, congratulations to today's guest, Elaine Gold, for sharing the best and most relatable tips on her last week's launch of the Female Founders Weekly Forum. Cheers to your success show, Elaine. Now let's go back to our topic, level up, navigating the founder to leader transition. Are you a passionate founder struggling to leap to effective leadership? Embarking on a journey from founder to leader is a transformative experience that requires a strategic mindset and a willingness to evolve. Join us in this episode as we chat with Elaine Gold, an independent consultant and co-founder and managing director of Gen UK, who helps female founders navigate the critical transition from founder to leader. Elaine has over 12 years of experience in leadership and organizational change. Welcome to your questions, comments, likes, hearts, whatever you can boost our today. And I am joining from where pirates met science, Providenciales in Turks and Caicos, beautiful by nature. And here is a STEAM trivia question related to Providenciales. Did you know that in 17th century, Providenciales not only welcomed pirates, but also played a surprising role in the history of science? The naturalist Sir Hans Sloane, a prominent physician and botanist who explored the Caribbean in the late 1600s, spent several weeks on Providenciales in 1687, collecting and cataloging numerous plant and animal specimens. So there you go. That's me from Providenciales. Elaine, where in the world are you joining us from?
Well, nowhere so exotic, I'm afraid, but I'm in the UK. I'm in Hertfordshire, and I'm about 20 miles north of London, and probably another 20 miles south is Cambridge. So I'm in the middle of a very exciting corridor between the City of London and Cambridge, which, as you know, is a real hub for science and technology these days.
Oh, absolutely. Science and technology, but also entrepreneurship. Elaine, you've been co-founder of Gen UK. Tell us about that initiative first.
Yeah, definitely. Well, a number of the viewers to this podcast or listeners to this podcast may have come across Gen in their countries, because the Global Entrepreneurship Network now has 200 countries who are part of the Gen community. And I got involved, 16 years ago now, when I was living and working in the Middle East. And I became the lead for the Global Entrepreneurship Network in Qatar, although I'm working across the region to focus on entrepreneurship for youth across the whole MENA region. And then when I came back to the UK, I co-founded Gen UK. So a very different entrepreneurial ecosystem from Qatar to the UK. But it's been very exciting to see Gen UK grow and develop. We support all entrepreneurs. We have an online community that anybody can join. They don't have to be from the UK, so other members can join. It's free. But recently, my role within Gen, which I've now spun off to focus on as an independent, has been working with female founders. I launched a program for Ukrainian female founders soon after the war started, in cooperation with other Gen countries, and we now have 200 Ukrainian female founders who've gone through that program. And I'm now focusing on female founders who want to grow, as you mentioned before, who want to make that transition from founder to leader, because it's quite a different role from when you're starting a business to when you're growing it and then thinking about what your legacy might be and what your future beyond the business might be.
So what inspired you to go from the Gen UK into the focus on female founders?
Yeah, a good question. I think, I mean, prior to Gen, I've been working as a leadership consultant prior to going to the Middle East. It was what took me to the Middle East, actually, working as a leadership consultant and working with boards and senior managers and directors, many of which were women. And so the program that I have now created draws on my experience of organizational consultancy work, working with female leaders, but really seeing what the need is for female entrepreneurship within the UK and in many other countries. We know that all over the globe, that female entrepreneurs are underrepresented. And if more women had the opportunity and were given the same chances as men to develop their own business, then the economic impact is unquestionable. The benefits that having more female entrepreneurs is very, very vast, and we've ignored it for too long.
We've ignored it for too long. We need all the help that we can get. So ever since you launched this initiative, it's been only a week since you had the forum. What's the plan for your group focus?
Okay, I've got two areas really that I'm focusing in on. You mentioned the launch of the forum, which happened last week. That's a weekly forum. It's 8 a.m. GMT, and it's an open session, a webinar session, again, totally free. We want female entrepreneurs, and we had a few ladies join us last week who are thinking about starting their own business. So it doesn't really matter where you are on your journey, but you can join and share with us your experience of founding your business. And we can talk about the things that you struggle with. Already from the first group and this group this morning, it's a very supportive community, a safe space to share the issues that we're tackling with. We talked to one entrepreneur who last week, following our session, was going on to pitch to a group of investors. So we did a bit of in the moment coaching with her as a group in preparation for that, and hearing how that worked from her today. And then in March, I'll be launching an online platform with a community of female founders who, again, are going through this journey. It's a 3-month program. It involves accessing online resources, an online community, but also group coaching and one-to-one time with me every month. So that'll be launching at the beginning of March. And then we'll see where it goes from there. There's some corporate organizations who are interested in whether there are some modules from my program that we can take and tailor to their needs. So it's a new year and a new start for me.
That's great. We need lots of initiatives like that, and definitely the bigger the group is, I mean, the bigger the movement is, the better it is for the future of female
Yeah,
entrepreneurship. And not just female entrepreneurship, because we know that females are great role models for generations to come.
yeah.
So, what are some common challenges that founders face when transitioning into leadership roles? And do you have some stories to tell us?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'm focusing on this journey from founder to leader is that in my years of working with entrepreneurs, startups, and scale ups, as you mentioned, Beata, it's not just women, but men also. This growth journey of your business is also a personal journey of growth. And as you move along the line of expanding your business, from being the founder, from being maybe just you or you with a small team, you then, as the business grows, there are extra layers of complexity. The whole area of communication becomes more complicated. The expansion of the business becomes more complicated. And then the whole funding issue. So on the founder to leader program, we talk about three main challenges that particularly female founders face. And that's one is the leadership challenge, that's self-leadership and leadership of others. The second is the management challenge, that is growing the processes and systems within your team, issues like team development and delegation. And the third challenge is the funding challenge. And that's where really female founders come up against more obstacles and barriers than our male colleagues do as entrepreneurs.
Uh, what do you see as we have now access to internet, and you have some experience working with female leaders. What do you see now with the new generation of female leaders? Are they better equipped with the access to internet, or do they still lack the focus on these three pillars?
They certainly have, over the years, I have seen more, the encouraging thing is I have seen many more women start their own business. Actually, one of the interesting statistics during COVID was that this was a time when more females stepped up and started their own business during that time of COVID. And as you mentioned, obviously technology is a great enabler of entrepreneurship, and AI particularly is really enabling businesses to grow at a greater rate. You've only got to look at TikTok and see so many people talking about the opportunities that are there for the independent, for the entrepreneur to start their business using technology and different ways in which it can be used. So there's a lot to be pleased about in terms of how women have grown in the sector of entrepreneurship. But there's still a way to go, and part of the barriers are to do with mindset, unfortunately, particularly when it comes to funding. And we need more female business angels. We need more female VC funds to invest in women-owned or part women-owned businesses, because still the discrimination, even if it's at a subconscious level, is there when it comes to men funding female businesses. The irony is, when I talk to investors who do like to invest in female businesses, they say they like to invest in female businesses because they know that a female entrepreneur, when she's asking for a fund, is going to have worked through all of the details. She's probably going to be more cautious. She's probably going to ask for fewer funds than a male entrepreneur will. But she will not take as many risks. That's a plus and a minus, but she will be much more cautious as an entrepreneur and as a business leader. And investors like to know that they've got that confidence there, that they're not investing in something that's going to be too risky in the short term.
So, what's your story, Elaine? Tell us, what was your transition like from founder to leader?
Yes, well, very good question. I mean, I've had a varied journey. I first started, as I say, sort of in corporate life as a management consultant, working with organizations, individuals, teams, talking about leadership, talking about change management and strategy. And so at that stage, I really wasn't involved in the space of entrepreneurship. It wasn't until I had the personal circumstances that many female founders have of moving to become self-employed. So rather than seeing myself as an entrepreneur, I became self-employed as a consultant, doing the same thing as I was doing there. But then I was inspired to set up my own business, and that happened in partnership with my late husband, and we developed a business that unfortunately failed. And so I know the pain of entrepreneurship when things don't work out. And then my journey took me to the Middle East. It took me to working, as I say, with young entrepreneurs across the MENA region, and finding the excitement and energy and the creativity of entrepreneurs I really enjoy. So I came back to the UK, as I say, sort of set up the Gen UK as a founder, as a co-founder, and then moving on as the business grew, as Gen UK grew, tackling with those challenges that I mentioned, tackling with how do we bring more people onto the team? How do we continue to communicate the values and the culture of our organization, but also thinking about my legacy. And something I talked about a lot today with our female founders group about purposes and the importance of having a purposeful business, but the importance of being clear about your own personal purpose yourself, which guides you in your life and direction. And it was really questioning myself as to whether what I was doing was fully in line with what I see as being my core purpose, that took me to make a bit of a pivot and change and come back to the area of supporting female founders. So I hope that's not too much of a long journey through and an answer to your question there, Beata.
I think it's a perfect answer. And I wonder what, apart from failing with your first company, what other failures you had during your journey, and what did you learn from it?
Well, I mean, what I learned from the first experience is that whilst there's a big difference between delegating a task and response to actually abdicating responsibility. So a difference between delegation and abdication. And specifically for me, that meant I knew that one of the areas that I wasn't very comfortable with was the whole financial support systems and support. And so we brought a finance director in, and then we brought other experts in. And my view was, great, somebody else is dealing with this now. But I was really, truly abdicating responsibility for finance. You can't do that. You can't abdicate. You can delegate, but you still need to acknowledge that you're responsible and you need to keep a track on that. So that was a very hard lesson I learned. Other experiences I've had, which have been sort of rocky, have been probably in terms of sort of dealing with team members and bringing new people on board and being clear about expectations for your team members. And again, I can recall a few occasions where probably I haven't made things very clear in terms of my expectation of a particular team member, and things can, go awry there. So all of that really boils down to the importance of being clear about communication and the way that you need to build in reviews regularly within your business and within your team and yourself. I was talking this morning about the benefit of checking back to your core purpose and the benefit of review. And I think one of the things that we underestimate is the power of learning from experience, and hence your question, what have we learned from that experience? But you can do those mini reviews at the end of each day. So at the end of this day, what's this day look like? What has worked well today? What hasn't worked so well? What can I learn from this to improve and be better tomorrow?
What can we learn? What we can definitely learn today from Elaine, the transition from female founder to female leader, or as we know, leadership has no gender. However, I wanted to ask you, Elaine, from your experience working with Gen UK or Qatar, what were the differences? You talked about the female founders, how they turn your investment into better returns by having better goals. I mean, very conscious of the risk. Are there any other differences that you noticed in your experience?
There are very many differences in terms of cultural background. So at one level, we have the gender differences, but we also have the cultural differences. And I've worked not just in the Middle East, but certainly in other countries as well, where the expectation, not just on females, but on young men too, is that entrepreneurship isn't really a respectable career path to take. And many families are not very supportive if a young person says, I don't want to do this apprenticeship, I don't want to do this university degree for 4 years, I just want to get out there and develop my business. And so those are cultural differences that arise. Where I found really successful female entrepreneurs in the Middle East, there's usually been a really strong male model, a father figure usually, who has been extremely supportive of their daughter and really encourage them to move forward. Again, the differences for women, more so than men, this is changing, but it's still very much there, is the whole work-life balance issue, because still women, whether you're a senior manager in an organization or you're a leader of your own business, you tend to have what we call the double shift and have the childcare responsibilities and the care of the home as well. So those are challenges which stretch us as female leaders and female founders.
Speaking about the mindset, Elaine, what would be your number one advice? How to change your mindset from, I'm not sure if I can do it, to can do attitude?
Yeah, I think there is a lot that we can do in terms of mindset, in terms of, one, being clear about what it is that motivates us, what it is that makes us excited about getting up in the morning and doing the work that we're doing. I think recognizing the strengths that we have. I think you mentioned empathy at the beginning of this discussion, and that's certainly an area that women, when we talk about emotional intelligence, tend to score more highly at than men do. And this whole area of mindset is just continually, those continual positive affirmations that we can give ourselves. And obviously, we can read, we can listen to. There's a massive, really helpful material on TED Talks, etc., podcasts that can all really help us to stop doubting ourselves, really believe that you can do this, and surround yourself by a positive support group, whether that's family members, whether it's female friends, but people who are there that are there for you and really going to support you. They're going to tell you the truth, but they're there for you. They will be your cheerleaders and your encouragers. And that really helps to build that positive mindset. It's self-belief, leaning in that you can do it. And there's plenty of role models around to help to encourage and motivate.
Right, we've got a question. I guess you answered most of it. However, I would like to play on that because Olga Vasina is saying, "Hi Beata and welcome Elaine. How would you contrast the UAE versus UK for startup entrepreneurship, particularly through the female-centric lens?" And I would like to add here one factor because I spent a couple of years in Malta, and the Helena Dalli, the Minister for human rights, talked about the mindset when it is so much easier to change the regulation, but it's so difficult to change the mindset. And Malta, being a very much influenced by Arabic country, really struggled with female entrepreneurs or female leadership. So how, as females, we can approach that struggle?
Yes, I mean it's a continuing. The issue of mindset is, it's not something that you can just put on as a external piece of clothing. It's there. It's mindset. It's internal. So it's a long piece of work. But it's Olga's question is really quite interesting because I think there's a number of things that come to play. If I contrast the UAE or other Gulf countries with the UK, the thing that struck me living there for 8 years, and what still draws me back, is there is a sense, the mindset is a mindset of opportunity and belief that we can achieve things in that region. And it's almost like the conquering America going back hundreds of years we were feeling like we're pioneers. The other thing that really impressed me when I first went over there in 2007 is that Qatar, for example, had just in 2007 published its vision for the country in 2030. So countries who are able to say, this is our vision, where we want to be as a country in 30 years, is very energizing. We all know that visions and missions are the things that really motivate us. But imagine when you're not thinking about an organizational vision, you're talking about the vision for the country. We don't have a vision for the UK in 30 years' time. That is missing. Those countries in the Gulf have that. Obviously, they have the money to make a lot of things happen, but the attitude is there. And so in those countries' visions was a recognition that they had to move away from a fossil fuel-based economy, oil and gas economy, to more of a mindset economy. So they knew that entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity is a way out. So what I find now, and I do take startups and scale-ups across to the UAE to have a look at the ecosystem there, what I find is that in some countries, startups find it difficult to reach the proof of concept stage or the minimal viable product stage in say, the UK. They can't get the backing for that. When they go to the UAE, then there are investors, there's the government, there are lots of opportunities uh, and organizations who will take that startup, that idea, and help and back it to develop it. So Olga's question about the contrast, more excitement, more innovation, and obviously it's a much younger economy as well. From a female-centric point of view, it's quite interesting. Sorry, my hair is really irritating me today. The, from a female-centric point of view, it's really looking at we have a lot of preconceptions about the Middle Eastern woman, and they are often wrong preconceptions about the Middle Eastern woman. Middle Eastern women, there are many who are entrepreneurs, and there are many who are in senior positions in organizations. So, you know, one of the facts that I found really quite surprising was that when we talk about equal pay in jobs, in that region, in the Middle East region, that's never been an issue. Women have always been paid at the same level as men. That's certainly not been the case in the UK, and it's still not a case in many situations. So yeah, let's put our preconceptions to one side and just welcome that creativity and the innovation that's there and the support that's being given.
Well, certainly in 2017, when I visited Abu Dhabi, I have to say that I was really nicely surprised with the number of publications about female leaders, about women in tech, or about women in space. Every daily newspaper had some cover about female-centric news outlet. Now, Elaine, speaking about expectations and shifting from transitioning to female leader, I think it's very difficult to start your journey if you didn't have previous work experience, is it? Or is it easier because you just don't have the pre-concept of what the culture of company should look like?
I don't think you necessarily have to have that previous experience. I think the start point for really most successful businesses is that the entrepreneur sees a problem that they want to solve. And for many female entrepreneurs, the problems that they experience might be to do with childcare, it might be to do with health, it might be to do with beauty, or as I say, in Meditech, there's a lot of female entrepreneurs who see a particular issue and a problem that they want to solve. Now, they may not have any experience in that particular field. And I know of I'm working with a particular female founder at the moment who's really looking at the whole area of net zero, and putting in some systems that really help organizations to understand how they can be more climate efficient and work towards net zero and ESG targets and goals. She didn't have any experience in that area whatsoever. It's a completely new area. And I know a number of female founders like that, but they are so motivated by the end goal that they then immerse themselves in information about the topic and again bring other people around to support them.
Bringing other people to support them, because you need that support system. And speaking of people, we've got supporters here in the audience, and we've got a question from Esmeralda. Hi, Elaine. I'm just curious, how do you manage a healthy work-life balance with the demands of being a leader? Judging by the picture with a little baby, I is probably talking about also looking after family.
Yes, well, it's important, and there's a couple of things that I do. there's my regular morning routine, which is one of spending just half an hour first thing in the morning doing some quiet meditation, and that really helps for me. I do block out time during the week to get some exercise in. I make sure I block a couple of classes, like a yoga class or a Pilates class I went to earlier today. If I can't do a class, then at lunchtime, I will make sure that I do even a short walk if it's half an hour or so. And you've got there's a very cute little baby in the photo there that looks adorable. And I have a granddaughter now. And so once a week, I look after my granddaughter after she finishes school. And that's a great time. That's a time when I become a child again and we play together. And I think having those moments which, help your body and your fitness, your mental fitness, but also have times to play, I think are important. So that's my regime at the moment.
You've got regime. It's definitely good to have a structure in your week. Now, I would like to ask you, what are some potential pitfalls founders should be aware of during the transition to leadership?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In terms of pitfalls, I think, based on sort of my experience, and I talked about sort of the danger of delegating and just delegating too much. You have to be on top of things. As a leader, you have to know what's going on in your business at every level. And that might include levels of detail that you're not particularly comfortable with, but you need to do it. That's a pitfall, to think that you can just completely let other people take the control of that. You need to be on top of that. I think the other pitfalls have been alluded to in some of the questions, that and again, I was talking to another female founder just earlier today who was struggling with the fact that she's having to put too many hours into her working day. So and really not, as the last question correctly highlighted, taking care of that healthy balance. So those are sort of the challenges that a lot of us face as female founders, and certainly they can be pitfalls for us. Also, don't ignore your friends. Don't ignore that support group. Don't get totally absorbed into the excitement and challenge of the work, but ensure that you're leaving space now in order to continue those friendships and have times to play. It might not be with children, but make sure that you have some recreation time with your friends.
That's very interesting because it's also coalesces with what Kevin O'Leary says about funding female-led Shark Tank businesses. And he says, understanding when you're going in the right direction is the tell of a great entrepreneur. Women are very good at listening, assimilating, and redirecting. And that's how you make it in business. Another two great qualities of females that O'Leary recognized is time management, because we have to multitask, and setting realistic goals. So again, as we talked about, the goals that are realistic, that are not too broad, but also that can motivate team members. Especially with leaders, it's important to have realistic goals that can be narrowed down. Now, Elaine, I'm mindful of the fact that we are 40 minutes into our discussion, and I wanted to ask you about what strategies can founders employ to balance their entrepreneurial spirit with the responsibilities of a leadership.
Well, I think You talked about listening, and that was sort of certainly one of the things, the strategies that I was thinking about prior to coming today, is in terms of communication, that you need to master the art of active listening. I think other strategies are to do with being adaptable, embracing change, being flexible. You use the term pivot earlier, and that's something that we are very good at, I think, as female. And strategies are always encouraging other creative solutions, evaluating opinions, and really sort of executing what you do with agility. But we talked earlier about the mindset issue, and I think that's the key thing. Really assert your worth and seek opportunities. So don't just be passive all the time and wait for things to come to you. Go forward and seek opportunities and advocate for your own advancement. And we find that with women going for funding as well. You need to step up, you need to ask. And maybe sometimes women, in terms of funding, need to make a bigger ask than they are doing.
Oh, absolutely. But also, I think a very important quality of a leader is resilience.
Yes.
Thinking here about Sarah Hashemi, who before she founded Coffee Republic, she went to over, I guess it's about 100 banks trying to get the funding. And, usually the
Mm.
concept is if
Mm.
you don't open 10 doors, it's not going to work. Whereas she tried and eventually got that funding. So,
Mhm.
what else can we talk about resilience, Elaine?
Well, I think it is, in terms of resilience, it's about being able to separate the personal from the professional. And for me, with resilience, that's probably one of the most important lessons, that you are going to get negative feedback. All of us are going through life are going to get knockbacks, and we're going to get negative feedback. But I think if you can separate the personal from the professional, then you can improve. We talked about learning from experience. We talked about review in order to improve. You can enhance whatever it is that you're trying to achieve next time round. So separate the personal from the professional.
Separate personal from the professional. We've got Olga saying, great answers, thank you, Elaine and Beata. And we've got IP of it, in Patrick's opinion. Patrick Young says, great discussion, ladies. Friend interaction is a good work-life balance point, but how much should you discuss your business ideas with friends?
Yeah, I mean that's a difficult one to because everybody's going to be different and everybody's friends are going to be different. I think that you will have certain friends who you really value and respect their opinions about, in terms of they understand you. They may have known you for a long time. They know what stresses you. They know what motivates you and excites you. Those are the friends that you might want to share specific questions about in terms of your business. But we don't want to become bores either with our friends. We don't want to be the one that our friends say, no, we don't want to talk to. All she talks about, or all he talks about, is his work and his job. So it's a question of balance, as in all things in life, isn't it? How much do you share? How much don't you share? And hopefully we've all got those friends who we know, kind of the critical friend, as we used to call it in terms of consultancy, but a true friend who will tell you the truth, who's got your best interest in heart and knows and understands you. So do share with your business, about your business, with your friends, but obviously with wisdom.
Share with wisdom, keep your secret sauce, as the saying in Startup Nation goes. Don't
Yes.
don't overshare, because there is still, especially in terms of startup, you need to be cautious of the big pool of idea stealers out there,
Well,
pirates, as it were. So, Elaine, we talk about the transition. Can you give us example of a great role model for transitioning from female founder to a leader?
oh well, no, you put me on the spot with that one. I can think of many female founders that I've worked with in different cultures who've grown their business. I remember working with a group of Indian female founders in Mumbai. And there was one really, well, there were a couple of very inspiring women who had started their business themselves, as many female founders do, just grew the business quietly themselves, and then again through the value of their social network began to expand their business so that the business grew. And I can think of one of those businesses was a kind of design business where they were taking a lot of materials that had been recycled and transforming them into some wonderful pieces of furniture and fashion, and growing the business in that way. There's a probably a more famous female entrepreneur in the UK who started her business again in this space, which had an ethical business in terms of recycling. And she would take the fire hoses that the fire brigades threw away and turn this material that the fire hoses were made of into fantastic handbags. And one of her major clients, she now designs for a number of the big designer brands with that material. She has grown her business. She decided when she set the business up that a certain percentage of profit would go back into a particular charity for the firefighters. And the first year that she launched her business, I think she hardly made any profit, but she still stuck to that and gave a percentage back to the fire brigade charity. And as the business has grown, as she's expanded from founder to leader, she is bringing in all sorts of new developments. She's now bought a big bit of land and property. They're experimenting with new techniques to bring the land back to better health, but they've also built a community on there where young people can come and learn crafts and work, and she's supporting them. So for me, that was a founder with a particular idea. She saw a problem. She didn't have any training, an experience of transforming those materials into a fashion product, but that's what she was able to achieve, and her handbags now are amazing. she's also making rugs and not leather goods, but different materials for the home.
Fantastic. And do you remember her name?
Yeah, the company is called Elvis, as in the singer, and Cressy, KRESSI, and she's the Cressy. Elvis is her partner. Yeah.
Well, we'll follow up on this. Hopefully, she will let us invite her into our Positivity Hack Delivered. Yeah. Each time a woman stands up for herself without knowing it, possibly without claiming it, she stands up for all women, as Maya Angelou says. Now, Elaine, I'm mindful of the time passing. What advice would you give to females to help their entrepreneurial journey, apart from that important shift from founder to leader?
I think networking is the key, and obviously we can do a lot of networking online these days. Something like LinkedIn is a fantastic network to connect and engage, but you still can't beat getting out there and meeting people face to face. And networking is there in every tiny little town. There will be opportunities to network. And some of those networks would encourage you, if you have got a business, to say something about your business, to do your elevator pitch. And I would always encourage women to practice that. There's their 60-second elevator pitch, what their business is, who they help, how they help as well, and just take the most of those opportunities. I do a lot of judging for competitions, startup entrepreneurial competitions. And again, I would always say to startups, look, apply for these competitions, enter them, because you learn such a lot. You learn how to present, you learn how to put your idea forward as a potential for funding. Just experience that standing in front of an audience. I mean, fantastic skills that you learn through entering into these competitions.
Practice makes perfect. Patrick adds a comment, sensible answer about friends. Thank you, Elaine and Beata. And another question, Elaine, where in the world do you think it is best to start a business today?
Right. There are every country is different. That's what I found really working with the Global Entrepreneurship Network. We meet every year, 200 countries, and we hear what other countries are doing that's innovative and inspiring. I've talked about the Middle East. I think that's worth exploring, UAE, because they've got particular needs. They've got particular sectors like med tech, health tech, logistics. They're very interested in any startups who are coming from that field to have a look at that. Cybersecurity is another area they're very interested in. And then there are other European countries like Estonia who really led the way in terms of helping entrepreneurs to start businesses with e-citizen visas, etc. So I think be led by what draws you, which countries appeal to you more. Because if you're thinking about relocating or forming a business in another country, it's got to fit for you in every way, not just with the business purpose, but in how it is for you, your personal life, your social life, etc. It's got to be a good fit for you.
And also, as you mentioned, networking.
Yes.
You need to be prepared to do a networking in a new country. It's quite a challenge to establish your network from the scratch.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could share your idea how you started your network when you moved to Qatar.
Yeah, when you move to a completely different country, it is you have got to find ways of assimilating. If you're working as I was for a project, then you start with the network that you're suddenly transported to. So the sort of center of the nuclear, if you think of all the rings of the circle coming out, start with whatever project, whatever organization you're working with, look for opportunities to expand your network there. And again, have a look online, because if you're moving country, there's lots of expat groups, communities online for different countries. So start online, make those connections. I would often have, when I was living in Qatar, I'd often be approached out of the blue from people who were saying, oh, I'm coming over to visit, or I'm moving over. Can we meet? Can we talk to people? So again, look for someone else who you feel you might have a kind of rapport with, and start to talk to them and get invited to things. You can't grow a network just by sitting indoors on your own doing nothing, and you can't do it exclusively online. You need to have a mixture of the two.
You need to have a mixture of the two. And now we are talking about the leadership transitioning from female founder to leadership role. And now a question that really could be changed from female to leader. I mean, as Eleanor Roosevelt once said, women are like tea bags. We don't know our true strength until we are in hot water. And indeed, leaders are like tea bags. We don't know our true strength until we are in hot water. So in life, how are you in hot water? How are you brewing, Elaine?
I've probably had more hot water than I would like to experience. So, but I mean, the feedback I get from where people who I've worked with in leadership roles is that I remain calm. I listen. I very much give time to the other person and try to see things from the other person's point of view. I come with a mindset that people are honest and trustworthy uh, until they prove me otherwise. So my mindset is one of openness. And when in hot water, it's just remain calm, don't panic, take those deep breaths, reflect back on the experiences. You will probably have gone through a similar experience sometime in the past, maybe a bit different, but you've coped with it before and you will cope with it again. And it's that self talk and that self belief that will get you through.
Now, Elaine, a very important question, I think, for many founders or leaders. When you discover that your trust has been broken, what would be your number one advice?
You can't help but be disappointed. You can't help but be disappointed because you have come with that mindset. I trust you, and that trust has been broken. Um, I think that the thing that you need to do is to make your feelings absolutely clear to the individual who's broken the trust. So without getting highly emotional, but actually sitting down and saying, when you did this, the effect on me was that. This is how I felt. How can we move on from this? So it's making it apparent. Don't brush it under the carpet. Somebody said, problems are like elephants. You can't sweep them under the carpet and not expect to see big lumps in the carpet. You've got to deal with it, but in a calm way. So be open with it. Be honest with it. Don't bury your disappointment, but raise it. Talk about it.
What is the number one book you wish you read before you started your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, I think I'm a big fan of Brené Brown, and I know a lot of people will have come across her. She and great TED Talks, and I think particularly her book on the power of vulnerability. And I think particularly for females, we've probably for many years been told not to show our vulnerability, but to put a mask on because vulnerability equals weakness. But I think what Brené Brown's really perfectly encapsulates in her book is that vulnerability is a great strength. And it really helps to connect with other people, and it empowers them to build to be vulnerable back, to share things with you, and out of that sharing becomes that relationship of trust.
That's a relationship of trust and actually showing the true power of entrepreneurship, because you can never be always right. Now, can you give us your favorite life lesson quote and how did it change you?
Well, I think again, another one of these management books that go back a long time is Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Leaders. And in there, he talks about the need to sharpen the saw. And we had that question earlier. What do you do to sharpen the saw? Obviously the metaphor there is, don't expect with a blunted saw that you're going to be able to chop those trees down, because you need to stay sharp, and we need to stay sharp. And really that has been reinforced for me over the years, and I just love it as a little reminder to sharpen the saw every day.
And how do you sharpen your saw?
Yeah. Well, as well as the things that I shared earlier in response to the question, I do try to keep myself up to date with thinking. I do listen to a lot of podcasts in terms of sharpening my saw, which is my skill set, and creativity and innovation. I receive other stimulation from other creative people. So podcasts, reading things, communicating, being part of networks on LinkedIn, and communicating to those networks, not just being a lurcher and lurking behind, but actually getting in and sharing opinion and getting feedback on that opinion. So all of that, I think, sharpens us.
Oh, absolutely. It makes the world go around, and definitely that's one of the outcomes of us communicating and networking, because it was actually Dr. Jackie Taylor who put us together, Elaine. So I'm
Yes.
very grateful for your time today. And now the final question of the day. Let's imagine that you could meet anyone in the world for a private breakfast. Who would it be, and where would you choose to meet that face-to-face venue? What would be your choice?
You may have had, if you've asked this question previously, where I think you might have had a same response, but I find Michelle Obama very inspiring. And she, again, is somebody who embodies, to me, a woman who has remained in control, calm, in those hot water situations, but very wise too, and kind of the way that her values of putting her family first in all things. I think she would be fascinating to talk to over breakfast. And where would I like to have breakfast with her? Well, I like the sunny climes, and I was an area I'm sure you know really quite well, Beata, sort of the coast of Miami. I was in Miami in December, and I just love the place. I love the creativity, the vibe there, but also the beauty of some of those beaches and some of those areas. So I could just imagine us sitting in the sunshine on a beach somewhere, having a great breakfast and having a great conversation.
And having a hot water to sink in as well. Not necessarily the hot water that makes you brew. Now, just a final quotation by Germany Kent: if you want to reach your potential, stop asking for permission. That's definitely words of encouragement for all these founders who want to become wholesome leaders. And that's it from episode 129 PhD live streams. Thank you to our guest, Elaine Gold. Watch her on LinkedIn. You can connect to her networking events every Wednesday at 9 a.m. or is it 8 a.m. In British time? 9 a.m. CET. To stay updated and ensure you never miss a positivity hack delivered, follow Woman on IT and turn on notification to be alerted once a video has been released. Next week, we will have Dr. Zorodaj Maroveke, and she's going to talk about how hemp can spark jobs and economies. Thank you so much to our lovely audience who participated and asked questions. Mary, Patrick, Olga Vasina, and thank you for all these hearts. Himmel Hassan, Feridi Latail, A. Esmeralda, Rashlin, Natalie, Erms, and Olga again. As always, our positivity quote comes from positive thinking only and goes, look for something positive in each day, even if some days you have to look a little harder. Finally, as Maya Angelou says, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't, change it. change your attitude. Today is your day to hack the future, hack the positivity you want. Thank you.
Agreed.